Greetings, my name is Christopher Paisley. I'm a Philadelphia public school teacher. Today I'd like to talk about the records request from the Tredyffrin-Easttown School District by America First Legal. So America First Legal, this nonprofit organization, it's a national organization, officially filed a records request with the Tredyffrin-Easttown School District, which is a school district in a suburb of Philadelphia in Chester County, PA. It's right outside of my hometown. It's close to my area. And the America First Legal filed this records request on behalf of concerned parents who want transparency with the school district. And this boils down to, of course, the critical race theory debate and what is actually going on in schools and school districts with critical race theory. So just to provide some background on this, last month on June 14th, there was a school board meeting at the Tredyffrin-Easttown School District where they brought up their equity initiative, which is kind of a subcategory, some would argue in terms of the semantics, a subcategory of critical race theory or critical pedagogy. So the parents were speaking out. There were about 30-some parents. Half of the parents said that they supported the equity initiative. The other half of the parents had questions and they criticized. They had some concerns. Some challenged it. Okay, so this happened. Some of the parents who were challenging their equity initiative were saying that this was inappropriate because they were using curriculum or activities or materials, at least according to their children and the things that they were seeing, that had some critical race theory elements or philosophy associated with it in terms of critical pedagogy, looking at children in terms of identity, looking at things systemically instead of as an individual. Some parents had said children came home and were talking about white privilege. Children had come home and were talking about all whites being inherently racist. This is what some parents had said. And there were some issues. Another part of this, there were some Chinese American immigrant parents who associated the curriculum and critical race theory with the things that were going on back in China, in communist China, in terms of that cultural revolution and the things in terms of Marxism. So this was brought up. It's not just a debate in this school district, but it's a debate that's going on across the United States. So this happened. I've been very interested in it, and I covered the school board meeting. I highlighted the statements of the parents who objected to the critical race theory / equity initiative, and I did a video about this. But I was most concerned with one of the school board members, a guy named Kyle Boyer, who mentioned that the parents who objected, their comments were hurtful and harmful, and he also said that now he knows why, after witnessing the meeting, now he knows why the Capitol was breached on January 6th. I did a video about that, and I highlighted his comments. And then, I did a follow-up video because Kyle actually contacted me, and then I did an interview / discussion with him where I kind of gave him the floor, and I let him explain what he exactly meant by this stuff. So I've been covering it, and I've been trying to bring in, I guess you could say, both sides, the way that I invited Kyle to come on and tell his perspective. So I'm just following up with this whole issue here because, again, the Tredyffrin-Easttown School District, which is in Chester County, PA, is close to my neighborhood. It's on the main line, and I just want to follow this in terms of what is happening. So let's get to what I want to talk about today. So America First Legal filed this official records request with the Tredyffrin-Easttown School District because they want answers. They want transparency. Specifically, the Pacific Education Group, which is a group that the Tredyffrin-Easttown School District brought in 2018. They're a consulting group, and a man named Glenn Singleton is the founder, and I think the CEO, and he has this curriculum and this program called Courageous Conversations, and I talked about that in a couple of videos. And this was brought in, and some parents were objecting. Number one, because they had heard that there were some controversial things going on with the curriculum or activities or trainings, and they wanted to know more about it. And the district and the school board was not providing adequate answers. They were stating that they couldn't give them access to this stuff because it was copyrighted. There was a non-disclosure agreement, so parents felt frustrated in terms of transparency. So concerned parents have now taken legal action, and America First Legal has now filed these documents. So what I want to do right now is I just want to read this statement, this news item that was on the America First Legal website, and this is all public information. You can go on the website and see this for yourself, and I'm going to put a link in the description of this video for you to look at this yourself, and you can explore all of these public records and documents for yourself. I'm just basically just reporting this and bringing this to the attention of people who may be concerned with this. So the headline reads, AFL demands materials from Pennsylvania School District that refuses to disclose ties to radical education consultants pushing critical race theory in the classroom. Okay, Wednesday, July 14th. It's dated Washington, D.C. Yesterday, America First Legal filed an open records request with the Tredyffrin-Easttown School District requesting all records, documents, and communications relating to the development and implementation of critical race theory curriculum between the Pacific Education Group and the school district. Despite repeated requests from parents and concerned citizens, the school district, in violation of both state and federal law, has refused to disclose the extent of its relationship with Pacific Education Group, a radical organization pushing critical race theory on your children, or the curriculum itself. Federal law mandates that parents have the right to access and review curriculum being taught to their children. The right of parents in this regard is sacrosanct. AFL is proud to defend parents and children against CRT indoctrination and extreme left school boards who refuse to comply with the law. So there's this argue over semantics, and when I interviewed Kyle Boyer, he insisted there's no critical race theory being taught in the district. It's all about equity. And it's, again, in my opinion, it's splitting hairs over semantics. I kind of debated, or at least argued from the position that whether you call it critical race theory or by extension critical pedagogy, it's all the same thing. It's an umbrella term that is starting to just encompass more things under the idea of critical studies, whether it's critical whiteness studies or certain aspects of anti-racism or certain aspects of equity, diversity, inclusion. When you're talking about systems, when you're looking at systems over people, when you're interacting with children and you're interacting with them as groups, as identity groups and not as individuals, when you're stereotyping entire groups of people, polarizing them into camps, oppressors, oppressed, looking at demographics in this systemic way where it is not on an individual level, people, that's one of the hallmarks of the philosophies of critical theory. It's looking at systems, and there is that Marxist flavor of the oppressor and the oppressed, and there are power dynamics and a power hierarchy. Now, whether or not this stuff is in the Tredyffrin-Easttown School District is the argument. I've talked to parents who say it absolutely is. These philosophies and these theories and this pedagogy and these approaches is in the district. They insist that it is. There were parents and concerned citizens at the school board on June 14th who argued as much. When I talked to Kyle Boyer, he tried to say that this is not the case. So this is, I guess, what is the center of this debate here, and this is why the parents want to see the records and the curriculum and the materials from the Pacific Education Group. When I looked into the background of this, I saw one activity that was called the Color Line activity, where people who are a part of this color line activity with the Pacific Education Group, they're forced to do this identity map or this identity wheel, and they go through this identity checklist and they measure their identity in terms of privilege and oppression and victimization or what have you, and then they add up their score, and then they're lined up in the front of the room in order of the score. And some people have suggested it's humiliating, and others have suggested it's polarizing and divisive. Others, like me, have questioned, well, what's the point of it? What is it really doing? How is it bringing us together? How is it helping us communicate? How is it solving issues of the achievement gap and inequities anyway? But that's just one of the things. So the AFL president, Stephen Miller, issued the following statement. AFL is committed to defeating the illegal equity agenda and the poisonous ideology driving it, critical race theory. In that mission, AFL is standing up for parents who are trying to save their children from racist CRT indoctrination. One such group of Pennsylvania parents is courageously fighting back. The Tredyffrin-Easttown School District has publicly admitted to applying the odious CRT framework on its captive students. These parents have demanded to see the lesson plans and teaching materials being used in the classroom weaponized against their own children, but the school, in defiance of both state and federal law, has refused to comply. In effect, it's a cover-up. AFL has therefore formally filed a request pursuant to Pennsylvania's open records law to obtain the records. If the school rejects the request in further violation of law, then we will take them to court and pry loose these records for all parents and all citizens to see. AFL will use every lawful remedy at our disposal to protect our children from critical race theory, and we will proudly support the patriotic moms and dads stepping up as parent warriors to protect America's kids from this racist indoctrination. So this was the statement from AFL President Stephen Miller about the documents that they filed to get to see this curriculum being used by the Pacific Education Group in the Tredyffrin-Easttown School District, which seems to be at the heart of some of the controversy and the debate, among other things. All right. So if you take a closer look at the records here, here is the written request for access to school district records, and this was filed yesterday by America First Legal. I just want to read this I guess, formal request in writing so we can see exactly what they're talking about. Again, this is online. I'm going to put the link. You can find this and read this yourself. Okay, so written request for access to school district records. Dear Mr. McDonnell, in 2018, Tredyffrin-Easttown School District began a partnership with Pacific Education Group. Upon information and belief under this partnership, Pacific Education Group is and has been designing critical race theory-based curriculum and instructional materials and/or reviewing and modifying existing curriculum and/or instructional materials to reflect critical race theory concepts and theories for the school district. Critical race theory as applied to education holds that in the United States, the education system is inherently racist and exists to create and maintain social, economic, and political inequalities between whites and non-whites, especially African Americans. The theory's proponents often seek to problematize whiteness or deconstruct whiteness. Proponents of CRT in education have argued that a focus on finding the right answer to a math problem is racist, and that students must be taught to focus on race and power structures that allegedly benefit white people at the expense of all others. Pacific Education Group promotes one of the most extreme versions of critical race theory, an already radical ideology. For example, Pacific Education Group believes the root of the current wealth gap between black and white families was the transfer of wealth from Southern slave-holding families to their children. White privilege is an invisible force that white people need to recognize. White teachers are worse for black students, and racist white teachers are the cause of differences in academy performances between black and white students. The school district has refused to disclose to the public any details about its relationship with Pacific Education Group and the curriculum Pacific Education Group is creating for the school district. At a board meeting on June 15, 2021, the school board stated that materials created by Pacific Education Group could not be disclosed because of copyright concerns. The school board also suggested that it executed a non-disclosure agreement with Pacific Education Group prohibiting disclosure. This violates state and federal law. As you know, under Pupil Rights Amendment, PPRA 20 USC 1232H and its implementing regulations at 34 CFR Part 98, parents have a right to inspect any instruction material used as part of their child's education curriculum. Likewise, under state law, parents have a right to know the curriculum of the school district, and it cites the code. The school district cannot circumvent these requirements by claiming copyright concerns and by using non-disclosure agreements. Okay, America First legal requests under the right to know law, and then it just gives the names of the I guess sections in the law or whatever. It's just some legalese there, but that's the gist of it. Okay, and it's demanding all records of contracts, agreements between the school district and Pacific Education Group. Anything that has to do with slides, documents, training materials, emails, toolkits, courageous conversation toolkits, etc. All records, including but not limited to email correspondence, instructional material, teacher training material, lecture material, memoranda and/or written notes, blah blah blah. Okay, so there you go. It's pretty long. It's got all of the specifics in here. It's 6 pages. All right. So that's the update. Okay, I just received this information from a parent who's concerned about this, who's kind of leading the charge, or one of the parents who are concerned, and they want transparency. It seems pretty clear to me, no matter how you feel about critical race theory, no matter how you want to debate the semantics of critical race theory, critical pedagogy, critical whiteness studies, anti-racism, equity, inclusion, diversity, all of these things. You want to split hairs over the semantics. It boils down to what are the lessons, the activities, the trainings, the curriculum that is going on in our children's schools. Is it splitting people into groups? Is it polarizing? Is it scapegoating? Is it again, stereotyping all whites as privileged and inherently racist? Is it insinuating that people of color are somehow victims or caught in a systemically racist system that was purposefully designed to hold minorities back? Again, this is all, I guess, going to come to light. Parents want transparency. They want to know what this is. Apparently, they haven't been getting answers. Again, I did a video on the school board meeting. I talked to one of the school board members. We spoke about some of this stuff, and that's just the update. So go on to the site if you want to take a look at the documents that were filed. Again, I'm going to put a link. You can go look for yourself. And I would just like to say, I think that I would like to commend the parents who are demanding transparency, as they should, as their right. I also would like to commend the parents who are holding, people and teachers in the district accountable in terms of a curriculum that needs to be encompassing, it needs to be compassionate, it needs to be forwarding communication and unity and not division and polarization, not stereotyping, not targeting whiteness. If it is, I guess it remains to be seen. So go check out the documents and try and keep up to date with this stuff, because it's important that we do keep a close eye on critical race theory and its offshoots of critical pedagogy.